So what we're going to do now is we're going to give this a matte coat, not a heavy dead flat coat, just a matte coat. We're going to use the extra acrylics flat varnish, good old shake first, and we're going to get the glass work into position, and then we can give it a matte coat. We're still not going to actually put this on properly. We're literally just going to sit it in here for the minute, like so, and then we'll put on our closed canopy for the moment, just like so, just to hold that all into position. We'll pop the spinner on the front as well, and what we're going to do, we're just going to give this a standard flat coat, and then what will happen is later on we'll come back and give it a dead coat. But what we need to do now is give it some bite. So basically when we put the wash on for the weathering, it's got a little bit of something to stick to. So we're just getting that going. So we're going to put in about 1 mil, or sorry, half a mil of thinners. Back in the holder a sec. Okay, then we're going to put in half a mil, so we've got like about a 50-50 mix of the flat. Then obviously give this a very, very good stir. I'm actually going to use a brush for this. Good mix. Now, there's two ways you can do this. You can either do the underside first, let that dry, turn it over and do the top, but obviously with acrylic spraying like this it doesn't take too long at all. But the secret with this stuff and all your flats is make sure it's got a good mix. Otherwise you tend to get that sort of, you know, white flecky thing, bits all over it, or worst case scenario you get like a white hue, sort of haze all over it if it's not mixed well. Okay, so we'll just start on the bottom, hyper air pressure, and we're just literally giving it a coat just to flatten it all down. Okay, on top of these wings. The decals are still quite bright, but obviously I'm not worried about that because they're going to go under a dead coat and that will take care of that. Okay, now the front. And if you do nice little light coats like this, whilst okay you're not going to have a totally dead flat finish, but they dry very, very quick, which is a bonus when you're doing this type of work. Just like that. So we can pour our excess back in the bottle. Quick clean out. It won't be a full one, just quick. So we're going to blow out all the old airbrush cleaner in the bottle, in the colour cup even. Quick stir around the top. Just move that out of the way. Stir around the top. Down in, around the needle area, a bit of a twist. Front of the needle, just give it a brush. Okay, I'm just going to blow all that through. Pump your trigger. Just come on, it's actually getting going over the plane itself. Okay, all that through. Right round on the inside and the outside of the colour cup. Kind of squidge on the inside. And then just another bit, just in there. And blow that through, just take care of anything that's hanging around. Yeah, that's it, simple as that. Okay, so we just need to let that totally dry and then we can come back with the wash and do a little bit more weather into it. Okay, so we're all happy that the actual flat coat is on there. As I say, it's not quite as shiny as it was before, but it's not like a dead flat coat. So we're sort of a medium, it's like a satin type effect with it. So what we're going to do, usual thing, going to get a bit of our wash. Okay, quite a small thin brush. Take some out of the cap. We're going to look for various areas which might pick up bits of dirt. So certainly behind the guns, we'll pick up probably a bit more than anywhere else. Okay, if we just bring you in Now, if you haven't seen me do this before, have a look at the Draken video, because that's what I do it a lot on. Okay, and all we do is drag back, and you get this streaking effect like this. And what we're going to do, we're going to build it up over all the panels and just pull it back. Now it will lighten off, but you're going to have to remember it will darken up again when another coat goes over the top. So when we put the flat coat over the top, this will come back quite dark. But it's very straightforward, quite easy to do. But what we're going to do, we're going to do it down this flap area down in here, which is always a nice one to do. So pop it in, okay. And we're just going to pull it out. Just like that, and just drag it back in the direction of the wind, remember, or the airflow certainly. Okay, so we just do, I'll do one more just to show you. So what I'll do is I'm going to do it just down the back here. Now I'm not doing it, if you look how I actually put this on, when I'm going along, I'm not putting down a line permanently. And some areas are thicker than others and various bits and pieces. So here we go, we just pull it back. Okay, so you get that nice effect running all around it. Now you sort of build it up with all the others. So if you see me do this on, like when I did it on the Draken video, you'll notice how quickly it builds up to being quite a nice type of finish you get to it. So there we go, just rubbing it back. So we're just dragging it back and you get that nice, dirty, weathered look. Like you've got there. But do remember, don't panic if you can hardly see it, because when you put the flat on over the top, we'll put a dead coat over the top of this, it will really jump out over you. So don't think, you know, oh, it's not very bright, I need to add some more, we'll put some more in there. But basically we're just going to go around and we're just going to pick out here, there and everywhere. Just little bits we can drag back on. Just bring it out a little bit. Okay. But don't go forward and backwards and forth, otherwise you're going to have it in the wrong type of airflow. So there we go, we're just doing that. We'll just do a couple more just along this one, just down here, along here like that. Okay, and it's quite quick, you don't have to, it won't take long to get this built up and sort of moving on and getting it all together. If I just take those clear parts off, because we're not worried about that now. And that's it really. As I say, just work your way around everywhere, just doing that as you go, and you end up with some very nice weathering effects. So sometimes you get the insides of panels like there, you know, perhaps that will get quite a bit, you know, and you can just come back and just go along. We're just going to pop along here just a little bit, each of the lights, okay, just in here. Areas of panels. Okay. And remember, you're going to get quite a bit perhaps of kick up behind the wheels, so we're going to put quite a bit back there, quite a bit onto that panel area there. You know, because obviously aircraft, when they're taken off, the wheels are wet, they rotate, fold back in, you know, obviously you've got water flying off and dirt, obviously the kick up from the ground as well. So you end up with this type of business going on under the underwing. I hope you can see that. But there you go, it's one of those things. Keep building it up. Remember, don't like it, usual thing, come along, wet your cloth, wipe it off, start again. Simple as that. Okay, as you can see, spinners on the front, and they're all deckled up and done nicely. Already now, so what we're going to do now is give this a dead flat coat. Now when we call a dead flat coat, or I call a dry coat, it means I'm not using any thinners. Now the secret for spraying a dead flat coat is to basically have your pressure as high as you can possibly get it, because obviously it's very thick stuff that we're going to be spraying. So what we'll do, we'll just bring them over again, sit him down here. So you have your acrylic. Obviously I can't vouch for using on enamels and things like that because I've never tried it. Now the thing is, it will separate slowly. It's had a shake about sort of half an hour ago when we did that first bit. So what it's done now, hopefully all any big lumps have settled, so I'm not going to reshake it. We're going to pop it straight into the airbrush, and as we're pouring very slowly and we're looking for lumps. If you see a lump go in there, then it's time to come out and try and fish it out or whatever you're going to try and do. Okay, so that's just gone straight in there like that, and it's neat. Alright, now compressor, just turn it up as maximum as it goes, let it pressurise, let it do whatever it's got to do to get it up, because you need to have it running right at about 2 bar, 35 psi, something like that, well up through the roof, because obviously this is very thick and it's going to take a bit to get it to atomise, if you like. Okay, we'll start on the top. I normally start on the underside, but we'll actually start on the top. Okay, now the pressure's right up, a good probably foot away from your model, and we're just dusting it on. From, I say, about a good foot away here. Literally a nice big dusty coat. Now obviously if the wife's in the room, or your boyfriend or husband, he's going to hate this because it goes everywhere, because it goes totally airborne. So that's what we do. We just say it's a nice neat flat out, all the way back with the trigger, all the way down, maximum as you can get anything to come out. Okay, then you go back. Working back and forth like that, building up a couple of really dusty coats. Now obviously you wouldn't want to put the wash over this because it'll hate it, and you certainly won't want to do decaling and things like that, so make sure you've got all that done first. Okay, now also when you're doing this you might be thinking, oh, it's dry. If you hold on to it, you'll melt your finger, the temperature of your finger will melt physically into the paintwork. Well, not the paintwork, the gloss coat, the flat coat going on here, so don't be tempted to grab it and hold on to it. Now at the same time, obviously don't forget we've got a dummy canopy going on there, so we've got to do the real thing. So we're just dusting that over as well. So completely deaden that off. Anything else, if you've got, you know, certainly don't do tyres with this because it will make it too flat, but certainly if you've got gear doors, things like that, which I have over here, give them all a bit of a squirt, because it will actually keep it all in perspective, otherwise you might end up with other bits. So what we're going to do is carefully holding on to the leading edges and rear edges, we're going to do the underside as well. Have a quick look at your needle every now and again to make sure you're not getting any build up. Here, the airbrush is out, just spitting, and there we go, just like so. I don't want to handle this obviously too much, but as you can probably see there, there's not a lot, you know, obviously I've got massive lights here, so you're going to get reflections even on, you know, coal, but certainly from the point of view of deading it down, it's completely dead flat, exactly what we were after, having a nice flat finish. Okay, the wheel wells are still a little bit shiny in there, but I'm going to put a little bit of wash in there and have a titivate round yet, because I'm going to do a little bit more weathering. We're going to do some scratching and some chipping and things like that as well to this one as well. But there we go, that gives you the general idea. Okay, here we go. Weathering, we've done obviously the wash and the bits and pieces, now we want to do some chipping. Now one thing I learned quite a while ago now, I did some various models and doing chipping. If you do it with a silver, whilst it's very effective, it's right in your face, and some ways I think it's a little too in your face. So what I tend to do is do a nice dark grey, and in this case you could use a gunship grey, something like that. This is XF63, although you know you could use XF24, something like that from Tamiya. But all we're going to do is literally just pop along with quite a sharpish brush like this. If I pull you in close, if we pick an area, sorry, overcook it slightly, come on camera, get in there, that's it. Now if I lift up this wing, obviously I've got it lifted up and holding on to it all at once, but all we're going to do, put a bit of paint on the old brush, and we're just going to follow little corners like so, like that, okay, and then what we're going to do, we're going to pick out corners and bits and pieces with the grey. Now, I know what you're thinking, what's this going to do? But in a moment you're going to see, because what we're going to do, we're doing the grey like this, to give little chippings and bits and pieces to give it that effect. And by using a sharpish thin brush like so, we can go around and pick out little bits on the backs of panels and various bits and pieces, and because it's this grey colour, we're hoping that it's going to sort of blend into the grey that's underneath there. So we're just picking out here and there little sections, anything that could do with just a little bit of a chip. So just little corners, take the little corners off of paintwork, bits and pieces like that. See around some areas, perhaps a bit like that as well. And all we're going to do is work around. So I'm just going to literally work everywhere around under here, and then in a moment we'll get it together and I'll show you the next stage. Okay, so now what I've started doing is putting the silver work on. So all we're using is the chainmail, or you could use a gunbolt metal, anything like that. Little bits on your brush and just go around. If I bring you in nice and tight, you can probably see it in various areas here, if we can get the camera to behave and focus. But all we're doing is putting it in those areas where we've actually got the grey, but we're not covering all the grey, we're literally just covering the centres, so it looks like it's chipped, and then obviously it hasn't gone right the way through to the metal all the way. So if we just do a bit over here, I can show you what we mean, and keep it quite sharp, edgy, quite jerky movements. So we do things like that, and then that way it's one of those things that's going to catch in the light more than it is actually going to stand out easily. So you catch it in the light. By the time we get the flat coat on, it won't be quite as in your face, but it's one of those effects which really is better with the naked eye looking at it than it is certainly trying to pick it up on camera like that. So I've done all the underside now. So if I get it in the, show you in the light, you probably can see it. And as I say, it's one of those things, to the naked eye it looks great, but because the camera is picking up the reflections of it, obviously you don't tend to get that as much with the naked eye. But there's the effect we're after, to give it that chipped in look. So what I'm going to do is flip it over. I'm going to do the same now. Obviously we'll put the silver away for a moment, clean up, and we'll get the grey out again. I'm going to do just the same to the top side. Okay, so the next thing we can do is a little bit more weathering. We want to put some gun smoke marks, trails, you know, the little black lines, and we certainly want to do the exhaust as well. So we've got the Valero Model Air, which is pre-thinned, and we've probably added about 50% thinners to that. This is just the standard flat black, so we give that a good mix. Okay, we'll check our flow. Right, air pressure very, very high, because we want it to act like real smoke does. Obviously the plane's moving at, you know, a couple of 100 miles an hour. You got the gun blast with it as well, so everything's happening very, very quick. So we want it to do the same type of thing with this. So we'll start off with the gun trails. Now there's a couple of little tricks you can do with this. He says, hunting for a bit of outing. Here we go. What you want to do, if you place the gun on top of a piece of sheet of bounty, just like that. Now if we bring you in a bit, obviously I'm sort of doing this to me, so I'm hoping you can see it too. And then what you do, walk the spray pattern from the bounty, so you see it hit down here, and then just pull your airbrush up, and it should run up the wing. And there we go, you get your nice gun smoke effect like that. Then once you're on like that, just pull it back a bit and just add a bit more lines. And then obviously with the engine one, we're going to start from the rear area. Okay, we're going to start from the rear one just here, and we're going to work it back. So that's that. and we're doing it just like that to give that nice sooty black look. Dry it off, just cut into air to give it that look, and we're going to do the same on the other side. So okay, as you can see, we've done lots of the chipping work all on the top. The main thing we've done that we can see here is these exhaust stacks. Now, these are a nightmare because the thing is, the little location holes for them are all different sizes. So if you like the way I did, basically you get them all out and then you do them all, and then you spray them up and then you put them in. All works great until you find out it's all different holes. So it's a bit of krypton factor. You go along and you have to fit them all up. And I had them all lined up down the sides and went through it all. And it's a long job. And I thought it would be even easier with the second side. But to be honest, that even took a little bit longer because I got a little bit overconfident. I thought I got one in the right place, and then it turns out obviously the hole is bigger and it was a smaller one and it didn't fit. And, it just goes on and on and on. So anyway, but that's those in now, and they're looking very nice. And as you see, I think it's really coming to life now. And with the smoke stains that we put on there now, with the exhaust stack, it's looking really nice and pretty good there, if I do say so myself. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the canopies off and the glasswork is showing through. We've got no sign of that bar up there at all anywhere. If we just bring you up and in a little bit just here, that's it, so you can see this a bit better in the light. But certainly, you know, the canopy mark, we were a bit concerned obviously about this join round the back here, but that's fine. It's nothing really to see, pretty well visible. The harnesses and the belts and everything, as you can see in there, all look pretty good. Very happy with the way that's turned out. Pretty chuffed with the weathering as well because it catches the light quite nicely. Okay, next thing we want to do is obviously we're just going to really sort of bring the entire thing together. So we've got all the major parts done. We've got to do the light work. Now the thing with the lights, if I can show you on this one here, we've got these little dots. Now there's two things we do. We can either cut them off or just paint them as is. Fours and against. Fours, it's in the right place, it's straightforward, you can just paint it and away you go. Against, you're not going to get that clear glass look that perhaps we're after. Now there's a couple of things we can do to make that. One is to give them a touch of silver first, then put the colour over the top, and then it will make it look very nice and stand out. Or you can just paint them and it will have that dark turned off look, which is another way. Or we could literally just pop a knife on there, nick it clean off, obviously being careful of your paintwork because we're doing it at a later stage, and then pop the glass ones on. It also has them down in here as well, on the side of the fuselage here, just underneath the canopy, and bits and pieces like that. So that's another thing we can do. We also weathered up just by using a little bit of dry brushing on here on the prop to get that done. So that's all looking quite silvery and dirty on the front. So that's another thing we've got done. The other thing we've done is obviously we've just put a little flat spot on the wheels, just so when it is stood there, it's not getting that horrible, you know, it looks like it's almost floating in the air and not touching the ground. So we've done that. Ideal world, weighted wheels. Go and get yourself a set off of Mastercasters because they're quite good, but unfortunately I haven't got any of those here. I've still got to paint the tail wheel and get that done. There's a little thing still to do, but basically we're just into that final stages. I've actually got to do the lights, the pitot tube, which is going to come on this side, and a few little aerials and bits and pieces. Little gun sight's got to go in, the reflective gun sight that's going to go onto in here, that's got to go on as well. So they're all just little bits we can do. Okay, so we're certainly looking the part now. We've got, obviously, the canopy's still loose fit, so we're not worried about that. Prop is on, but obviously we can take it off because we don't want to knock it off. Okay, what have we done underside here? We've got the wheels on. We've done our usual way of doing this, where we put some glue actually on the pins and then on the wheels and then settle it down, rock it so the flat spots get into the right place, if you like. Okay, check to make sure they're okay. Make sure the wheels are square, and obviously you could use pots of paint, things like that, just to hold them all square, so they're in right. Check your tail wheel as well to make sure that's all squared up and everything, and then just leave it. Basically, walk away, go and leave it for a couple of hours to totally set hard. And then when you come back, as we've done here, the wheels are, you know, right way up. Flat spots leaning backwards, because obviously if you just put them on, it would be in this sort of the upright position. Obviously we need it to be sort of leaning back. Okay, so we're getting really into the real latter stages on this. I've got the pitot tube fitted, all the other little bits and pieces all going on there now. I've got the front gun sight on, got the little one, tiny one to go on the front yet, still got to go on. I've put the mirror on with using a little bit of gator glue, that's just gone on there straightforward. And we'll paint that up afterwards because it's a lot easier getting there with a thin brush than it is trying to get in there. Also, I don't know if you can actually make this out, but we've got cotton hanging on here. We put a blob of super glue on, dabbed it down to the locations, and we just let it all lying there. We've got another one on here as well down the back, and all we're actually doing is letting those all dry and go hard, and then we can pull them up into a bunch back here on the top of the rudder to bring it all together and to have all those looking nice. Obviously you can use cotton, you could use fuse wire, you could use invisible thread. There's lots of different things you can use. I'm just using black cotton for this. Really, it's a little bit too thick, but obviously from my point of view, I need you to see this on film. So if I was doing it with, you know, very, very thin stuff, you would never ever totally see it. So if I just bring you in a little bit here, you can see, if I just wiggle the camera around, there we go. As you can see the cotton on there, just into this area, and also it's working with us with this paint scraping and things like that. Obviously, you know, it's a nice little, looks like a bare metal area for it to come out, but obviously there's the cotton, you can see that quite well. Okay, so we've got these on. One little trick, what you do, get a little bit of Tamiya tape like we've done here. If I pull you in a bit closer here, as you see, all you do, you get your cable and you run it along. See, I'm showing you stuff you can't see. Okay, so you get your cable and you run it along here, then pull it to the inside underneath that little tail and pull it up, then stick a bit of tape onto it. Same with the other side, then come across and stick up. And what we'll do, we'll cut those in very tight right to the front so nobody will see it. Then obviously the trouble is if it's going to focus that close, sorry gang, obviously this middle one that comes up is where is that one going to go. So what we're going to do, we're just going to put a drop of super glue in here at the front, like so. We're going to loop it around underneath, okay, and then we're going to just pull it up, and we're going to pull it round like so. So we've got it hanging across sort of a three-way split. That's what we're trying to do. So we just want it to come along, go around and in and be just like that. And as it's held there like that, we can come along, a bit more super glue. Okay, and just put it on like that. Now you could use a kicker, as we've done in the past. Obviously you've got the CA kicker here, and just give it a squirt. But in some ways it's quite nice just to let this one do its own work and just be, but just remember, don't pull too hard, otherwise what's going to happen is you're actually going to take off the ones on the wings. We don't want to do that, because obviously the ones on the wings here are literally just sat on the top of paint. You haven't gone down to to the plastic, so it would be easier for it to literally lift off and ping off. Okay, we've done the forward gun sight. We're just going to let that dry now. Okay, there we go, the final reveal. She is all completely done now. I must admit, it's a lovely kit. I had my sort of, you know, really is it that good? Everyone was singing its praises and saying it's a fantastic kit, well engineered and everything else. But, you know, as I say, there is other Warhawks around and things like that. I have to say, working with it, it is a fantastic kit. There is no problems with it anywhere apart from this canopy business of actually taking out that bar that runs down. You know, obviously in the ideal world, it would be nice if it didn't have it, and it isn't the easiest thing to remove, you know, by, you know, I know I'll make it look a bit easier and things like that, but it really isn't, because it's actually a panel line, two panel lines in the plastic, so you actually have to dig right the way through those to sand it completely off to do it. It's not like it's slightly raised and you just sand down, you are actually having to go down into it. Apart from that, it just falls together. It goes together really, really well. Okay, there's a couple of little ejector pin marks that, you know, could do with not being in the places they are, but apart from that, it has been very well thought out, very well engineered. Obviously the guys who designed it did a cracking job with the layout and the way it goes together. The canopy fit, things like that, it is all just absolutely spot on. It's pretty much faultless. Underneath, the way the undercarriage is, this isn't actually fixed, it slots in, which is quite handy. Obviously from my point of view, this does go overseas and things like that. It's very easy for shipping because it just unplugs. All the wheels, like obviously with the tail wheel here, you know, I haven't glued it, so you can actually position it in sort of, you know, if it's in its coaster mode and things like that. We've done, obviously I covered a lot with this one. I know it's a 6-parter and I went through it, and hopefully I haven't bored you all to death with doing it, but originally it was going to be a 4-parter, but I went through and really wanted to show you these things, because a lot of these different things we do with camo and bits and pieces, it's quite a nice way of doing it, of be able to show you on this particular one because of its colours, because, you know, I can show you the difference of post shading and pre-shading and bits and pieces like that, as well as working with the canopy, working with tape belts. So it has been a bit long and drawn out, I know that, so thanks for sticking with me as we've done it. It's great, as I say, you know, is it worth the money? Yes, absolutely. Go out and buy one. If you want to do 132 scale stuff, then obviously this is a great one. Warhawk, personal favourite of mine anyway. You know, after seeing various films with it in, I was hooked as a kid. It's just the mouth really, isn't it? You know, it says it all. Having the shark's teeth on that mouth just really, really brings this aircraft to life. Certainly I've always wanted to do this aircraft in these markings, and now obviously Hasegawa gave me the chance to do it, so thanks to them. I hope you enjoyed the build. I hope I've covered everything for you. Obviously there's more information on the forum, so just go and dart in and have a look in there, and then we can talk about it at length in there. Thanks a lot for watching, and join me again next time.